Hi, guys. Welcome. It's Deconversion Therapy, the podcast.
Hi.
This is Bonnie.
It's us. And it's Karen. We're not dead. We feel dead.
I feel
we're
dead.
Not. We're still here. I said we did.
Yeah.
She just has to up me. Yeah. We're here. We're alive. Yeah.
Well, wait. I have one other thing to tell you guys. And Karen, I knew you knew a little bit about this, but my dog is a Havanese, and her best friend is this little, like Dachshund mix, and they're both exactly the same little fat torso size, and they were the biggest players and everything. And when we lived in New York, she would come stay with me, and they would lay next to each other, and they haven't seen each other in 11 years. And her mom brought her down for a visit. And I was like, oh my God, this is going to be the cutest thing in the whole world. She's going to walk in the door. They're going to be like, oh my God, my best friend. And she walked in like she was smoking a cigarette. She's like, hey, what's up? Like, did not pay off at all. And I'm like, Addie? And Martha's like, let's play. But it was sweet nonetheless.
Did they warm up to each other?
They weren't not warm to each other. It just wasn't the raucous, you know.
I wanted when that guy saw the lion. Remember, he grew up with a lion in Africa, and then he went back to Africa, and the lion saw him and came and like hugged him.
And killed him?
Have you ever seen that?
Did he kill him?
No. He was very
this is real? I
affectionate.
thought this was like some parable.
This is real.
I thought this was a Bible parable.
No, it's like... Yeah, no.
And I don't know what the lesson was going to be.
Daniel.
Really?
No. Yeah. It was like out of the 80s or 90s, some video.
Okay.
We would have seen it on beta I'm sure, and had to rewind it. Yeah.
So anyway, so that was sweet.
Do you say fur babies?
No.
Okay.
I'm sorry.
Well, you said her mom. You say
what
her
do you
mom,
want me to
so
say?
I thought you would have said fur babies.
Well, saying it's her owner is shitty. You don't own that dog.
But don't we? As
oh my God.
Very responsible owner?
I know.
I mean, if I was enslaving the dog, it would be doing something for me, and it is not. So I'm taking...
Dogs are not doing anything for you. It's true. Yeah, no, I just always...
Maybe we'll just say caretaker?
No, because, you know... It just happens to be the dog's mom, not the dog's dad.
It's not. But it's
if
not.
I say the owner, you don't know. You don't know.
It disrespects the bio parent who didn't want to probably give them up in the first place.
The bio parent. The bio dog parent who was on the street getting action. Anyway, so you're going to talk about dogs today? Oh, wait, let me tell you one other funny thing that happened. So this woman... I call this woman, who's one of my favorite clients, and God love her, she doesn't talk like this, but when you call her voicemail, it says, beep, 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 Connie! Cannot talk right now.
And Connie is such the perfect name.
But the way she says it, every time I laugh, and if I ever called it just to hear it and laugh at it, she'd answer, and then I'd be like, oh, I just wanted to hear you say your name funny. But
I used to work with this woman when I lived in North Carolina, and she was known for, if you call her house after 8, not even 9 or 10, she picks it up and puts a foghorn. Right in the phone.
Oh, you mean an air horn?
And then hangs up.
That's a foghorn.
Foghorn. She has a whole tugboat right there.
Wait, so I call Connie, and tell her that I would have feedback on the showing of her condo, except the people who really liked it are currently distracted because they discovered that they have mice all in the engine of their car, and they might have to total it out because their agent was telling me they found bedding and everything, and the mice, quote unquote, went to town on all the electrical system.
Now, is the car a newer fancy car?
I don't know.
Because I was listening to Smartless, the one that everyone listens to.
With my love,
because
Jason
movie
Bateman.
stars can just start whatever they want and then blow everybody out of the water.
Yeah.
But Sean Hayes was talking about how he had some new car, and right away, the first day, it started stinking. Ends up that some of the newer cars, the wires are covered with a, quote, plastic that's made out of soy.
Yes.
And animals want to eat it.
Fascinating.
I'm telling you. That's why you just need a good old Chevy.
That's why you ride a bike. So, anyway, so that's what's been happening in my life. How about you?
Nothing. Absolutely nothing.
We can't say that to people who are wondering why we're not recording.
Yeah.
Nothing. I've just been smoking.
I have been trying to keep any of our social media alive. Just go find those. And then, taking care of an elderly father. I'm going to be there all next week, by the way, so you know. Mm-hmm. And a lot of family situations and stuff like that. Nothing bad.
No, it's just time consuming.
Craziness.
And P.S. I had to clean this house before my friend's dog came.
The dog.
Because I wanted them to have a perfect little environment for their big moment of reuniting.
For them to run into each other's paws and swing each other around.
So F that little
dog. Disappointed you.
I busted my ass cleaning for her. And then she came over and laid on her side. Anyway, that's okay.
Well, my dog Zen, the elderly one, who just has barely vision in one eye and the other one is just a glass of milk kept in an eyeball formation. And he has snaggle teeth going everywhere. So he's going to have dental surgery.
Yeah.
And I really want to be like, can I come in? Because I've got a lot of things I want to do to him. While he's under anesthesia. I want
trim his nails?
They'll cut his nails.
They will.
But I want to shave his legs. I want to go in there and do it, but I don't think I'll be able to.
They might do it for you.
They might for another $1 billion.
Oh, Martha's having none of it these days. Just brushing her with the slicker brush. She's like, I've had it. I've put up with this shit for years. I'm not taking it anymore. And the vet gave me a pill, and it did nothing to her. Nothing.
I thought you were going to say, and it did nothing to me. My little banter is that I went into Walgreens.
Oh, no.
And it's one of those where, I get whatever, can't even remember, get in line, no one behind the cashier. You're looking down the aisles, but I would have to leave the area to find one. Finally, this older lady, she was elderly, quite elderly. She was there with her friends.
With one
she
milky
got in line
eye.
behind me. Yeah. And a bum leg. And she was behind me. And we couldn't find the cashier. Finally, the cashier comes up and says, who's first? Well, I'm in 2 feet in front of her. I've been there. And the old lady chirps up. Well, I am in a hurry. And she looks at me with the look of niceness, but almost a challenge. And so I mean, she could tell I was a bit annoyed because I'd already been waiting at the register for quite a while. I was the only one craning my head around to find the cashier. She
but
did not
wanting to
her
give
head.
up your spot. I'm going to move my head a lot, but I'm not going to move away from my spot. These poor retail establishments, though, all of these people are having a hard time finding employees. I
agree. And it wasn't their fault.
Plus, they don't want to pay them to begin with.
Correct.
Yeah.
So, the lady looks at me, and I just went, go ahead. And I did it reluctantly. Sometimes I do it in such a nice way, but I wasn't feeling it.
Yeah.
So I said, go ahead. And she goes, oh, thank you. And she got like a candy bar or whatever she got, some lube.
Stop
and then
it.
she went. And then.
Oh. Because, you say things like that, and I picture it being my mom. So you just...
Sorry
Okay.
to bring that to you. So then she pays for her stuff, and her cronies are there, not in line, just gabbing with each other. And they have the rain bonnets. Remember the clear kind that you tie under your neck?
I don't think I ever did,
To
but I
cover
remember
your
seeing
hair.
them. Yeah.
I remember your grandmother wearing one.
She wore turbans,
but
thank you.
this was rain wear.
Yeah.
So the lady goes first, then I go, and then I go to my car. She was still in there with her ladies talking.
Oh, because I'm in a hurry.
Oh, I forgot the most important part.
Yeah.
I forgot the most important part. I let her go ahead of me. She gets whatever, and then she goes, I've been blessed by you. Thank God. She did all her Christian stuff, and I wanted to go like, I support trans rights or something to scare her, because in
Right.
Tennessee, it's a shit show right now. But,
Yeah, right
I
now.
let her do all her blessings and thank you and
Yeah.
bless, whatever. And then, she turns around and she goes and she's talking to all her friends.
Yeah.
And I go in my car and I wait for 5 minutes. She's still in there.
Yeah.
She's a liar and a thief, and I wish I never met her. So this week, I am going to tell you about something. And first, may I read you some verses, Bonnie?
Satanic verses.
I think,
right.
here
Yep.
we go.
Let me sit up in the chair here.
Sit up, listen up. May we be sincere servants of thee, like those who make the world renewed, O Lord of life and creation. That's one. And then, the followers of the devil do not choose the right path because they were in doubt and were deceived. Do you remember those Bible verses?
I think the content sounds familiar.
Do you remember any Bible verses, Bonnie?
John 3:16.
Thank goodness for sports, holding up the John 3:16 sign. No, those were from the holy book of Zoroastrianism that is before Christianity. And I wanted to do it for a long time, so I'm going to tell you a bit about it, and you're going to be enthralled while I tell you.
Are you going to tell me about one of the most famous Zoroastrianists
Yes.
who
but
has
don't say
a
it
lot
yet.
of teeth? What?
Ma,
But
don't say it yet. It's a surprise. Our audience who's listening, they're going to be amazed. Okay, so Zoroastrianism is an ancient religion, but it was the first monotheistic one, which I
what does
didn't
that
even
mean?
think
One
about.
God?
It means that before that, all the religions that were ever recorded were multiple gods. You had Hinduism was already out in all the fashion, and they had thousands and thousands of gods. You had Greek,
the
Roman,
Greeks,
Norse
yeah.
mythology with all those hot gods. And Zoroastrianism is the first one that was like, no, there's just one God. And to think that that was shocking and like novel
New,
for people.
right?
It was new. Like there's this new idea. It's so strange.
It seems so evil because, well, I mean, one God is different from we're the only way and everyone else is fucked.
Yeah,
Okay.
for
so
sure.
never mind. Maybe it's not evil. Go ahead.
We'll see if it's evil. I don't know. But it is probably 4,000 years old. So there's been a big debate about how old it is, and there are some who say we can date it because there was a language that was being used that then later wasn't used, so they placed the language at a certain
Right.
time. But, the debate of how long it existed was for who knows, but we're going to say maybe 3,000 or 4,000 years ago, which
So
of course
they didn't
is
have their own
1,000.
calendar where
They
they
didn't
could
even
date
have a
everything.
calendar. They didn't have Google. They've screwed it all up. And they didn't leave a little note on a wall.
Fellow Zoroastrianists, this is year 0. Today we start counting. Yesterday didn't count.
It all started taking place in ancient Persia, which is the country of?
Iran. Iraq.
Exactly. No, Iran, right? Yeah, I think so. So it took place in ancient Persia, and it was the state religion, because what's good is when you have a religion that the leaders have it and then make you also sort of be like, you got that one too now. So there were 3 kingdoms around that time that they were all Zoroastrianists. And today there's anything between 100 and 200,000 Zoroastrians. It's not really popular, but we'll get into that.
How many?
And maybe by the end, you will want to be one.
Wait, how many? 200,000?
See, I said some people say it's only 100,000. Some
Okay.
people say it's up to 200,000, but it's not a growing religion. That's for sure. Although, now with video games, I sound like an old youth pastor. These newfangled things. No, with people who find an interest in mythological things due to
With that low membership,
whatever.
They couldn't even afford to take an ad on the Super Bowl if they wanted to.
There was no Super Bowl ad for them because even if each of their followers gave $1, they still wouldn't be able to have a Super Bowl ad for Zoroastrianism. So, unfortunately, you guessed, but which sucks because I wanted to teach you something new. You know everything.
I didn't spoil it.
So the most famous Zoroastrian, you don't know of this. I'll give you hints.
Okay.
They had a lot of teeth.
Yeah.
The nickname for some Zoroastrians is Parsi. And this
Okay.
person was actually born with the name Farak Bulsara. And they were born into Zoroastrianism. And that famous person is?
Freddie Mercury.
It is Freddie Mercury. I'm glad I told you, Bonnie. I didn't know that. I remember in the movie when the iRobot guy did him, I think I remember people calling him, I think Packy, which is a derogative for anyone with brown skin in that time. But I'm wondering if I heard the word Parsi.
I don't know.
I don't know. But I didn't know.
It's
So,
just
he's-
it's just something I remembered from forever ago because some of our friends in college loved some Freddie Mercury.
And some people say that Bohemian
Bohemian
say that
Rhapsody?
right? Thank you. Rhapsody is sort of the verbiage, which, is sort of kookadoo. And the musicality of it is very reminiscent of some Zoroastrian practices, so that it could have influenced Bohemian Rhapsody. I don't know, but that's what the internet say.
That's what the interweb says.
So 4,000 years ago, what happened was there was this guy named Zoroaster, and he became a prophet. He was bathing as
prophet
one
of
does in a
what?
river. He was a prophet because when he was bathing, he had a vision of the true one God, which his name is Ahura Mazda. Mazda,
What?
like the car? Yes. So the Mazda car was named after the Zoroastrian god.
Is that true?
Yeah.
I can't tell when you make shit up.
No, it's true, because there's actually quite a few cars that are named after different things like Saturns and stuff like that. Like, who knows? Mercury.
Oh.
These are planets, whatever. But
Freddie Mercury.
So, Toyota Cressida, my favorite car, because the seatbelt was automatic.
That's the best.
So I had a Toyota Cressida. It was my dad's. And then he gave me his old car when I was like 17 or 18. And it had an automatic seatbelt that, if you haven't seen it, is attached to the sort of door.
Yeah.
And when you close the car, it automatically locks you in.
Yeah, it whips the seatbelt like from the lower left of you up and over.
Correct.
And here comes your seatbelt.
So seatbelts you in.
Yeah.
Unfortunately, many a time have we gotten in there with a Carvel ice cream cone.
Oh, God. Here it comes. Yeah.
And many a time there has been cursing. So, and if you have like anything, if you have like full hands, then it locks you in with all your stuff in your hand. But,
wait, let me tell you, if I haven't before, and you can stop me or delete this or what have you, but I had an Accord that had the same thing. And that was only in the Accord for like 2 years, and before they realized everyone's just getting ice cream everywhere. And so my mom was driving. We were in San Antonio, Texas, and we were getting into a parking garage. She had to stick her head out the window to get the ticket, and she couldn't quite reach, so she opened the door a little bit. Well, here came the seat belt down on the back of her neck, slamming her head into the car door. And I had
to put it in back of you. Yeah.
And I had to not laugh, but it was really hard because we had just been fighting. So.
That's it. It was my dad. I'm sure he's yelling at me for something.
Yeah.
And then he had the ice cream, and I just sat there like, I'm not going to laugh, and you deserve it.
But she laughed then.
All right.
And we laughed.
We laughed and laughed. So those cars have nothing to do with the religion.
Okay.
But the guy who was bathing, he had a vision of who the one true God was. I never understand how you can turn your vision into a whole religion. I don't get that power, because
we don't have
people
it.
Just go, I had a vision too, No. But anyway.
These people like this, they have something magnetic about them. There's something.
The Kavorka. So he was then called a prophet, and he was Zoroaster. So that's the name. Zoroastrianism is actually after the prophet, not after the god.
Right. Okay.
And he began to write down Holy Scripture or hymns, and that was called the Avister. And I know that I'm humiliating every Zoroastrian out there. And that was like the Holy Scripture, like what I read you earlier. And then the god itself was named Ahura Mazda. And let me tell you about the God. The God was said to be omniscient, omnipresent, omnipotent, the creator, and behind all good. Now you can see what we have here is some familiar themes, because this is prior to the New Testament, prior to Jesus. And this is in the time, though, of the Old Testament. Like some of the people that were alive during the Old Testament, if they were close to Zoroaster, over a hill or a mountain, I don't know. They would be prophet colleagues. I don't know. But they were in the same time.
Prophet colleagues.
But their God.
Okay, so if it's the same time, they probably got wind of it somewhere.
There's wind.
When he was bathing, which being in water gives you the best ideas, because it kind of, I think, gets us back to
Shower
what we're made of.
but only a river.
Yeah. And so
Well, his would predate, though, still
Old
some
Testament
of the Old
stuff?
Testaments.
Okay.
Yeah, some of it, because, well, I'll get into it. But their god, Ahura Mazda, was not male or female, and there's no description of their god. So they don't have like the he said this and he said that situation.
Right.
They just believe God is more of a, not a force, but a god, but without gender, without color, and all that. And
But
they believe.
it goes back, though. I keep thinking, like, great, somebody can make all this, but why do we have to worship them?
Everyone was worshiping something now.
But that's the stumper, isn't
Everyone.
it?
It's the stumper.
That's the big stumper.
And I heard someone recently talking about, the people who are leaving the church, leaving the faith, what will happen, because we've always had religion since the beginning of time. Will we replace it with something or a dogma or a religion that's new? And to me, I think we don't have to. But in a lot of people's minds, they think we do.
I think they're going to. People want that. Think of all the people deconverting, and now they're all like, oh, let's go with these other people who are deconverting. And pretty much they're going to latch on to some shit to believe in and to do as rituals or patterns or habits.
Why we need to start our cult now, because people are looking for people to follow blindly and give money to. Blindly.
Well, do you have some land?
I heard this other... Huh?
Do you have any land? We need land
if
we have...
we'll have to have them give us land.
Okay.
But I heard this young woman, since she was in high school, has been doing some kind of stuff where there are groups of men who want to be financially dominated. So she'll say, send me $30. Right. And it does not sound right, but I want to know who those are. Yeah. Because she'll be like, send me $30, and they will, and they'll send her more. Like, that's some kink. And I'm like, that's the one kink I would not mind. Let's find our way into that. Okay, so they also believe that they aren't totally under their God as much as they're God's co-workers.
Yeah, okay, I like that.
As well as, that's not bad. As well as they believe that wine and cannabis are medicinal.
Okay.
This almost sounds like a new religion someone would invent. Like, hey, let me get something that people would really be into.
Right.
God isn't your boss anymore. Mm-hmm. And here, have a doobie.
He's not going to shame you. He's the steward of what he created. It's kind of like when somebody builds a building and then the HOA takes over. They don't worship the architect. Anyway.
Well, one of their main things is they do take care of the earth, because they're like, our God made this earth. He's the creator of all things.
Right.
And we're to take care of it. I'm like, wouldn't that be nice?
It would.
So here's some other things that did not exist in this way before this religion. There was an adversary called Angra Manu.
Anger management?
And
what?
Exactly.
Angra Manu.
And this evil adversary, is going to fight, is going to bring anything evil and fight the good, all-loving God, because the adversary is all evil, and you go to heaven or hell, depending on your deeds, and then at the end, there'll be an apocalypse.
Okay, that sounds familiar.
It's very familiar, very familiar.
That sounds
and
familiar.
It spread through the Silk Road, because a lot of people wanted silk robes. So in that day and age, they're like, we want some silk. We're going to take this long road through desert and, get some silk or something like that.
Okay. So
That's
everything good happens when you travel. That's how ideas are shared.
Traveling, it opens your mind.
Yeah.
So the first writings date to 450 BCE. So the religion had been going for a while, as many religions do, as in the Gospels. None of the writers had met Jesus, the real writers, and they were written after Jesus. The same is here. The religion had been going on for, could be 2,000 years. And then the first writings were in about 450 BC. But a lot of people are really into it, including what's his name that wrote Game of Thrones, because he uses some iconography, some characters out of that. So there are 3 cycles of the earth or the world or life, according to Zoroastrianism. One is their God created perfect creation, and very soon after that, the devil gets involved.
Like a snake
and starts,
an apple?
Like a snake. Starts complicating everything, and that's where we are now. The third cycle will be the apocalypse, and that's when Zoroastrian God and the evil guy thing will battle it out. But also, some interesting things happen. It also says that the dead then will rise from the earth and be judged.
Like zombies?
Which we find in, we find it in our Bible, in the Christian Bible. It also says that when people die, they go and get judged by God, whether they're going to go to heaven and hell. So these are some of the same things that ended up in the Bible and the Quran much later. And these were the first time these concepts were ever introduced, was through the old Zoroaster man.
Okay, so if you read that book, The Hero's Journey, and they kind of tell you the structure for writing a screenplay, and you go, oh, well, the character has to start out in his regular world, and then he has a call to action, and then he goes on his adventure. It's like, these are the patterns. It's just fill in the blank with whatever religion you want. Everything was perfect at first. And then man learned to reason and ask questions and make judgments. And that's sin. And then I guess somewhere in the future we're going to have an apocalypse. I don't know who gave him that notion.
Well, remember, it's the end days now. Remember in the 80s when it was the end days?
Yeah.
Now
those were good end days.
Again, those were good end days, my favorite end days. I looked up when all the end days were prophesied or told to people, and it started in the time of Jesus. They thought he was coming back right then within the Bible, then 66 AD. And there's one part where even the Connecticut Congress feels they knew the year. God was... crazy.
That's the part, I can get on board with everything was pure and perfect for a while, and then came sin. But the part where they're and then the apocalypse, that's the shit that we made up. And of course it's going to be something that nobody can figure out when it's going to happen, because we made it up.
And it's always a loophole.
There's always...
Be ready. God's going to come any day. And you're always scared shitless.
Yeah.
Okay, so some other things that they had festivals. They still have festivals, and they have this was before the Bible, the understanding of clean and unclean. And unfortunately, women during their period were unclean, just like in the Bible, because men don't know what to do with that. So they just put it in that.
They were probably the only ones who knew how to write. Write shit down.
Yeah, probably.
Yeah.
But during those early days, the Muslims came and forcefully made the people of Iran be Muslim. we have heard that's quite an old story, and it almost feels good to know that another religion besides Christianity did that
like
to
pounded
people.
you into believing what they believed.
Yeah.
Okay.
Forcible beliefs. So then in Iran, the people who were Zoroastrians fled for their life, and a lot of them went to India. And India said, yes, you can stay here as long as you don't convert anyone.
Oh, God.
That's the key, though, to a religion for me. Don't try and convert anyone.
Right.
So in India, they're called Parsis, and
okay.
you're initiated. I mean, you're born into it, but you're initiated when you're about 7. And in Iran, there are a few remaining there, and they are initiated when they're about 10, and they're given a shirt, a girdle.
Sorry. It's a T-shirt.
And they.
I went to Zoroastrianism school.
That's right.
And all I got was this lousy
Ask me
T-shirt.
Ask me about Zoroastrianism.
Here's your shirt. Here's your girdle.
I
Sorry.
heart. Yeah. So they're given their uniform with their little name tag.
So they get so they get a T-shirt and Spanx. I'm
They
sorry,
get some
a girdle.
Spanx.
What's the
And
girdle
then,
like?
they have their rituals that are, there's different rituals, but one you'll really like. One is performed at special places with the participation of a dog whose left ear is touched by the kid that's being initiated and whose gaze puts the evil spirits to flight. And these little rituals last for 7 days, or several days, sorry. But to think that, they involve a dog in the initiation process makes me in. I'm going to do it.
So you get to touch the left ear of the dog.
I just want the dog.
So cute.
And how much he must be like, that was my dog. That was,
Right.
Jeff was initiated with my dog. Now, in modern day, they do have Zoroastrian World Congresses in the U.S. that meet twice a year, so they can all mingle. And if you can fly over, you can, if you come from India or whatever, you can do that too. But their main tenets sound like what you like. Good thoughts, good words, good deeds.
Okay.
So that's it.
You say it sounds like what I like you shun that.
Yeah. I'm going to get to some wild parts in a minute, but they did have temples, but they didn't need them really. They're called fire temples. And there are a few in the U.S. now in New Rochelle, New York, and Pomona, New York. And I think there was one being built in Virginia and Washington. And I listened to some guy. Fire.
Are they structures? Are they buildings?
Fuego. Yeah, they look very Iranian, sleek in a way from the outside, and you don't have to go there to worship or go every Sunday. It's more like a gathering area, or if they're going to do the festivals, that it sounds like they get to do one almost every month, which sounds
Are
bueno.
they storefronts at strip malls that have been converted, or are they freestanding?
Yeah, they're right next to Jesus, the Ebenezer Revelation Angel Wing.
The candle store.
In a plaza, right. And then you have a vape shop, and then you have the Zoroastrian. No, they're like freestanding, and if I didn't know what it was, I think I would have been like, that looks Persian architecture or something, but we'll put it on the website.
Okay. I'll just Google it right now while you're talking. I'm just kidding.
Exactly. So I'm going to save some stuff for the end that I think is the most interesting.
Okay.
That has to do with the religion during that day. But, nowadays, one, they don't really accept converts. It's not a come and go thing. It's sort of like you should marry another Parsi person, and they have matchmakers. So I watched one little video about this guy who wanted to meet another Parsi girl and get married. So he ended up meeting 2 different ones, but these people were just in T-shirts and jeans. So were the girls. So it's no like Amish Mennonite looking stuff.
No girdles.
They all had like astrophysicist degrees or were in grad school or whatever. And they met to see if they got along. Like the matchmakers do it for free because they know this is the way we're going to keep our numbers. And one of the matchmakers is actually like some science guru at Harvard. And she does this on the side. Like, you two would look at... It did not work for Freddie Mercury, though. I don't think he found a woman. But what the people that were talking were just like totally, great. One of the women's like, yeah, I think I'm ready to get married now. I do want to marry someone who's Zoroastrian. And the other girl was like, I don't know if I feel like I need to marry within the culture. And there was no judgment. There was no... The women aren't like put
the parents
down.
Didn't shame you for that.
I don't think... I mean, I'm sure there's shaming just because it's a tradition. But I don't know. But it was cute. All right, so here's the thing that sort of blew my mind. King Cyrus shows up in the Old Testament Bible that we have. But he was Zoroastrian. Cyrus turns up in the Old Testament or in the Jewish books because he was actually the one in charge of getting the Jews freed from Babylonia. And he's one of the only Gentiles, I think, that the Jews really lifted up and praised in the Old Testament, because everybody else was a Jew, but he was from Iran. And Cyrus shows up in a lot of the writings, including, let's see if I have the exact verses. I might have them and I might not. Yes, I do. So in 2 Chronicles, which is a book in the Bible, if you don't remember. I'm going to let you wow everyone. What's the book before it?
1 Chronicles, because it chronicles
Incorrect.
Stuff.
Yes. Yeah. So in 2 Chronicles 36, 22 through 23, it says, in the first year of Cyrus, king of Persia, in order to fulfill the word of the Lord spoken by Jeremiah, oh yeah, he was around during Jeremiah, the Lord moved the heart of Cyrus, king of Persia, to make a proclamation throughout his realm and also to put it into writing. This is what Cyrus, king of Persia, says. Quote, the Lord, the God of heaven, has given me all the kingdoms of the earth, and he's appointed me to build a temple for him at Jerusalem and Judah. Any of his people among you may go up, and may the Lord their God go with them, be with them. And then you got another verse later. That could be the exact one I just read. But there's some other ones in the Old Testament that say the same general thing, where he's, helped the Jews get out of Babylon, and he's also building the temple. But when he says God, he doesn't mean our God.
Right.
Because he's Zoroastrian. What's also interesting is, remember when baby Jesus was born in the stable, in the inn, in the cradle, in the manger.
Yeah.
And the 3 wise men came, but they used to be called something else before us little white people got our hands on the Bible.
We 3 kings?
Kings. We did that. We made that up too. They were magi.
Okay.
So the 3 magi, and then we changed it or translator changed it. But magi are Zoroastrian priests. That's the name of their priests, are magi. And in the Bible, it says one of the magi comes from Persia. And that was their priest name. So it would be like saying 3 rabbis came up and everyone knows who they are. But then later we change it to, let's just say 3 kings. Let's just say that they're wise, because if anyone now looks up those kings, they're not going to find them in the history books. So we're just going to now say
Let's
they're
just say
smarties.
they were smart guys.
They were smart.
They were wise guys.
There were actually a lot in the Old Testament and throughout that comes not only that, is from Zoroastrianism, because we know that it was contentious because it overlapped Christianity. It started before, and then there were overlaps, and what a lot of religions did was if they were making their state or their country change religions, they would use a lot of familiar things from the last one to sort of ease them in so that they had some familiarity. So it wasn't like, we're all believing
I'm just thinking,
in
like,
Hindu.
all that took so much time, too. It's not like they can just send out a tweet and go, okay, there's a new change in the religion. But okay, so I was hung up on something there. So if Zoroastrianism, they do or don't believe in Jesus?
I don't know if they believe in Jesus because the religion predates Jesus by a good 1,000 to 2,000 years at least. So there was no Jesus or biblical God in theirs. They had their own God.
One of them showed up to his birthday party.
That is in our Bible. That's not in theirs.
Okay.
So to finish up, though, with the Zoroastrian stuff, it's the same as anything. When Christians and Christian scholars are asked about it, they say things like this, because here's like a question and answer at, I don't know if this is bias or not, this website. It's called evidenceforchristianity.com. And so someone asked, like, hey, isn't a lot of Christianity borrowed from Zoroastrianism? And I like this. The guy writes, first of all, the idea that Christianity borrowed from Zoroastrianism is completely untenable, given the evidence. Next sentence. Judaism is borrowed from Zoroastrianism. That's a little harder to disprove. So, like, they're willing to throw Judaism under the bus.
And Jesus was a Jew.
Well, thank you all for listening to me just waffle on this episode. It's going to be all Bonnie next episode.
What?
She's going to talk,
Oh, my God.
She's going to just dive into, I don't know, we'll pick something really difficult. And thank you for listening. You can find us on all the social media, etc., and send in any funny stories for our lettersodes at deconversiontherapypodcast.com.
Yeah.